Naukri, just taking that as an example. But we wanted to actually go back here. So we wanted to understand what is quality. And then we said there are about 3 or 4 parameters which define quality. And we said someone who is earning well is a quality candidate. So and we said maybe what is the right metric of well, and we said maybe 10 lakhs. 10 lakhs a year is a very good number, and this is, I'm saying 10 years ago. Anyone earning at the top of the industry bracket. Now when we say we have to define that specific industry, so if it is manufacturing in that industry or in textile, someone who is at the top end of the industry is a quality candidate. Then we say it's not just good enough there. We have to actually look at good role in a good company, because people may not disclose their real salaries, and sometimes you may not have that number as an indicator. Somebody said maybe someone who is working as a product manager in Yahoo, or technical architect in Adobe, a program manager in Microsoft, or a consultant in KPMG, he is a quality person. Now, obviously, we actually had to do this roles piece, very, very important, because there were, and we actually did what is the salary of a person related to the experience of the person. And then we actually had to do a little more removal. We have to remove a lot of roles also, because a receptionist in Microsoft, is it a premium role, right? Is it really premium in the sense from a recruiter perspective? And then we have to actually remove some roles from a recruiter point of view, because then it sort of corrupts the search, and we can't really help that. And then obviously we had graduates from top institutes as a clear variable of indicator of quality. So these are like 4 or 5 parameters we sort of brought together. And then we said this is what we call as a premium candidate. And if a recruiter is searching in Naukri, they will rank slightly higher than the other ones, because they are quality people. And if we actually then said, maybe we need to distinguish which recruiters look for that quality and which recruiters are not looking for that quality. And so we make that distinction. Only those recruiters who are keen on that set of candidates will get those higher in what they're looking for in their search. So next. And then I went and looked at some of the jobs which get posted. And then these are some examples I just picked up from IMJobs, which now happens to be part of InfoEdge, and Naukri.com. So if you actually, one example in MDI, we had a representative here from MDI, and I can see MDI as clearly one of the institutes which is mentioned in the title of the job. It says, I am looking for graduates from these institutes as my shortlisting criteria. So there is a segment which says, I want people from top institutes. So there are some examples like, should it be a graduate from top tier institutes? Then people will say IIT, NIT, NSIT, Delhi College of Engineering, MBS, CFA with consistent academic record. Or it could be even, for example, the example which is say site, Amazon, Google, Baidu, Xiaomi. So this is the list of companies the recruiter has in mind, which says, this is the target set of companies I'm going to hire from, and that to him is quality. So the notion of quality is not just one, it is a multifaceted definition. So if a student graduates and joins a good company, stays there for significant period of time, he is a good quality candidate. Someone who has actually done exceedingly well in his career, whatever may be the graduation institute from a recruiter perspective, he is a good quality candidate. So the quality is performance, quality is also pedigree, quality is also a premium role, or is this a premium company. This is just signals of quality what a recruiter is looking for. So one thing which I wanted to bring is, yes, people do search for top institutes. So that's something which we see in behavior. We see in jobs, we also see in their search behavior, we also see in their hiring patterns as well. So Naukri, for example, when we're doing this, we realized how do we make it easier for recruiters. So we created a list. We said these are the top 30 engineering institutions. These are the top 30 MBA institutions. So we essentially created that list which is like a filter. So a recruiter can say, show me candidates only for these top 30 institutions. Show me candidates only for these top 30 MBA institutions. Where does this 30 number come from? And this is something that we sort of evaluated. And our thought was, IIMs and maybe some of the top tier institutions. We should cover at least that set. And we know, for example, that these are jobs in which people have mentioned specific institutions, so we should at least cover those institutions in the list. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. College rankings, will it be part of Naukri algorithms? Now that's one piece which I'm not sure how this will evolve as we go forward. We are obviously trying to figure out, from a Naukri point of view, what does the recruiter want? What is the weightage they assign? Obviously, the institution weightage dips as the experience proceeds. So if recruiter is looking for an 8-year experienced person or a 10-year experienced person, the weightage for which institution the candidate graduated from comes down. But that's not true universally. There are several roles which are high experience roles, which are CXO roles, which are essentially putting some filters when it comes to top institutions as well. So the market is varied. One thing which we know is that as candidate becomes more and more experienced, the weightage of the institution in the hiring criteria keeps coming down. It is also the performance, it's also the companies the person has worked for, and that's how the market evolves. Yeah? So why does top colleges matter? And I think this is something that we have actually already discussed. There are enough top institutions where you will find candidates who are not worthy to be hired. I don't want to repeat too many of them. Yes, I mentioned some examples which are my personal stories where I couldn't manage to hire the right person in some of those top institutions, but I'm sure there are a lot more experience in this room, so we don't need to deliver that, spend more time on it. Obviously, companies need to work harder when they go to top institutions to hire, or they have to hire even from the market. They have to work on their salaries, they have to work on their stipends, they have to work on their work environment if they have to hire from top institutions. Please feel free to interrupt me and ask questions. I most welcome questions and point in time. Okay. All right. But yes, perceptions are changing. I think ISB is an example which came up. And this ISB is a new institution which has come in last 20 years, 25 years, and it's really interesting how this institution has grown. We are also seeing triple ITs who are doing very well, and this is somewhat my personal view that triple ITs are doing better than IITs in some fields, especially, and maybe the IITs can improve their curriculum to some extent. They're still using physics, chemistry, manufacturing science workshop. These are like mandatory courses in the first year, even if you are studying for computer science engineering or electrical engineering, and these subjects probably are not adding value. And since triple ITs are only focused on these two branches, they don't have these subjects as mandatory subjects, or they don't really put so much focus and attention. So clearly, someone who is graduating from a triple IT in a computer science field has probably a better learning than maybe some of the top IITs as well. Obviously, you have to factor in the input quality piece, right? If there is an input quality mismatch, and that obviously stays even if the student passes out. So that, just adjusted for that, curriculum-wise, triple ITs are obviously doing a lot more stuff here than the IITs. Yeah.
So I have a question here. So do the recruiters ever ask you whether an institute is internationally accredited?
No.
So that is a very big question that we have. We talk about quality and accreditation. Whereas industry is not really cognizance of it.
Recruiters do take care about, I wouldn't say whether it's a notion of a quality or not, but there is a blacklisted list of institutions, which some of the companies have. Now, where does that blacklisted list comes from?
No, that's a different question.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's a different perception. I'm not talking about blacklisted or something like that.
Right.
What I'm trying to say is, if an institute is internationally accredited, let's say AACSB, right? Do the recruiters take the cognizance of it? Do they ask?
No one looks at it. No one writes in it, right? Yeah.
So that's where the gap is. We talk about quality.
No, but see, please.
And if these organizations are not taking, cognizance of it, and we are talking about quality and accreditation, so I think we are actually on different page.
Sure. Let me just try to. Yeah, let me just add, and please you can come in. See, my sense is, I think this has been discussed. Accreditation is like a quality assurance. This has been mentioned in the panel earlier also, and I think we should let it be that in that sense, right? When the recruiter is hiring, he is looking for many things, not just one, right? So there the other variables come in. What is the relevant role, experience, company the person has worked for, maybe he has done certifications outside. Please understand, even before some of these larger institutions came in, there was NIIT graduates, there were AppTech graduates who were doing well and they were being hired by companies, right? So in terms of those programs are completely outside of any, in some sense, the accreditation norms or whatever, right? So there are enough recruiters who pay emphasis to some of the certification courses people do, right? And they are not accredited courses. And I, as a hiring manager, have hired people who have done certification courses. So I know that these are one of the variables, not the only variables. Yeah.
Yeah, just one quick perspective on this is, if you look at the first 30 that they have listed, for example, 20 or 30, it's reasonably, you can be reasonably sure that 80% of them would have been internationally accredited. This is my challenge.
Yeah, but
Because if you look at,
figuring in any of the variables, he's saying
no, it's not figuring yet. No, I understand. See,
but one of the variable is not accreditation is a big question mark when we talk about quality and accreditation.
I understand that. The thing is, we have to have a little bit of patience here. That people, if you look at it, patience means I'm talking about as a community. See, today it is evolving. See, international accreditation is definitely there with all these institutions which you are talking about here.
Yeah, but recruiters have their own ways of judging people, so they will introduce written tests.
That's right.
They will introduce interviews. So they have their own ways of judging people, right? And even if you hire a wrong person, obviously the person will find his way out if he doesn't perform in the role. So recruiters have their essentially the cost of hiring, the cost of performance, cost of exit, all of that they will obviously look at when that comes to their hiring process. But I think the point I want to make is that perceptions are changing. It's not just the top tier Ps, and there are obviously more IITs and more IIMs, so it's become harder for the other institutions to find the strong brand the IITs carry. The point I was making is that newer IITs are still, at triple IITs they're competing. If you look at the engineering institutions, BITS Pilani is really holding ground, and none of the obviously, some of the new IITs have actually crossed past BITS Pilani. So IIT Hyderabad is actually really short. IIT Roorkee and IIT Guwahati are older in that sense, right? But IIT Indore and IIT Gandhinagar are very close to maybe BITS Pilani in some sense. But triple IIT Hyderabad is